Ever felt lost in the maze of college football recruiting, hearing a whirlwind of advice from other parents, experts online, and coaches, yet you're left even more frustrated and unsure about the best path for you and your son? Well, you are not alone, and you're in the right place, because in this video, I'm gonna break down the entire college football recruiting industry, including the 4 main different services, what you can expect, the pros, the cons, what to do if you want to do it all on your own, as well as how to make a decision on what service to use if you do want the support. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Richie Contartesi. I'm the founder of NextPlay, and I specialize in transforming young, driven varsity football players into confident leaders, communicators, and businessmen so they can ultimately secure the best college football scholarships possible. And I make these videos because I understand the struggle firsthand. At just 5'7", 150 pounds, I managed to secure a D1 football scholarship at the SEC, at Ole Miss, and now I want to share that journey and the lessons I learned with you so you can live your dream as well. Let's jump right into it. So as you can see, I broke this down into a few different categories, but I want to start off by understanding college football recruiting services. So there's 4 main services. The first one is a software, online platforms that allow athletes to create profiles and then do outreach and connect with coaches. These are probably the most well-known, and you probably know who they are. The second one is mentorship, all right? And this would be personal guidance from experienced individuals in navigating the recruiting process. And this is where you will work and teach and coach athletes through the entire, and parents through the entire recruiting process. A combination would be services that blend the software and the personal mentorship. This is the approach that we take. So in all transparency, just so you know, I think it's fair when I'm sharing a video like this on this type of topic that you know. And then the fourth one is recruiting service, all right? And this is much different. And this is where basically they're agencies or they're individuals that actively promote athlete to college programs using their network. So they say, okay, if you sign up with my service, I'm going to introduce you to coaches or get your son in front of coaches that I already know and that I already have relationships with. So those are the 4 core services, right? Now there's obviously camps and all that stuff, but I'm specifically talking about help in actually recruiting, all right? So those are the 4. So how do football recruiting services work, all right? And this is really important to understand. I do not offer a recruiting service. So as I break this down, you might be just as maybe concerned or confused as I am. So I have a lot of connections in the college football space, not only from working with athletes and the athletes that I've worked with that have gotten scholarships and the relationships I've built with those coaches, but just from my own experience of playing in the SEC and the coaches that I met and now all the schools they're at and who they know, as well as our head coach, our chief recruiting officer here at NextPlay, who has 15 years of Division I college football recruiting experience, including in the SEC, at North Carolina with the Tar Heels, East Carolina, as well as FIU. So like, and the world is pretty small, right? So like, we pretty much know coaches at every single Division I, Division II, and NAIA school, okay? And so I just want you to think about this and the math behind this, okay? So I put the math behind these recruiting services. If I were to say, hey, you know, pay me a certain amount of money and I am going to introduce your son to some coaches, and I were to charge, let's say $2,000. I don't, just FYI, I do not do anything like this, but I'm just doing the math, right? I would need to sign up, at least 5 kids in order to make any kind of decent living a month, right? And of those 5 kids, but then I have marketing expenses, I have business expenses, which could, you know, if I'm running a very small single operation, next still is probably gonna be about $2 or $3 grand. So you really probably need to enroll 6 kids, right? And so how many friends and connections can I possibly have to send 6 kids with very little vetting right, to people I know and make an actual connection with. Like, hey, I know the receivers coach at West Georgia or West Florida, right? And I'm gonna send them 6 kids every month? Like, but what's my reputation, right? If I'm sending a bunch of kids all the time to all of these different coaches, what's that do to my reputation, right? Like, in the service we offer, it's not part of our service, but there's sometimes we get to know a kid, he's really go-getter, we can't get him in front of the right coach. And so maybe, just maybe, we'll make an introduction, or we'll say, hey, check this email or check this DM, and then boom, it takes off from there, right? But my reputation matters. Our head coach's reputation matters. And so would anybody who's in this industry doing this. And so when you start doing the math of how many kids they would have to send to these coaches that they know, right? And the friend of a college coach who takes on any kid, like, how many, I hope you're getting what I'm, like, I just can't fathom from a reputation standpoint, like, how it's possible to be able to send athletes to the same coaches and not hurt my reputation. Because if someone just paid me a certain amount of money and I just sent him off, I have no idea the character of that kid. I don't really know him. Even if I had a Zoom call, I don't really totally know who they are. And even if you have an interview process, you do your best, but it's almost impossible to truly know who they are. So when you start looking at it like that, you could start really determining, like, how does this actually work, and how would one not completely destroy their reputation in the matter of months from doing this. So it's just something to keep in mind. I don't know anybody who operates a private recruiting service where they share athletes to people they know without destroying their reputation for a long period of time. I don't know. All right. So maybe you do, and maybe you've had success with it, and that's awesome. I'm a big person of, like, doing the math, and I quickly do the math, and I'm like, in order to make a living, you'd have to bring in this many athletes, but how many people do you know in college football? Can you keep sending them bad people, or, not the right people, or not good character people, because you're taking on anybody? Like, I just can't see how that would work, right? So that's my initial understanding, and when I do the math, that's what it looks like. Okay, but let's talk about the benefits of it, right? Because there could be some potential benefits. There could be people that I don't know. Again, I don't know anybody that does it, but this is the space, right? So some benefits, right? Exposure to college coaches and programs that you might not know of, right? So there's definitely the possibility for that. Assisting in creating highlight videos, there's definitely the possibility in that. Guidance through the NCAA eligibility and college application process. Comparison to hiring a marketing and sales agency. So basically, essentially what you're doing is you're saying, I'm the football player, go do marketing and sales for me, right? So that's essentially what you're trying to do here. And then they do it for you so you could focus on football, right? So these are the potential benefits of using a recruiting service. But just like in business, if you're in business, hiring a marketing and sales agency is a very, very challenging thing to do. And I kind of went through some of the reasons as to why. Now, some common criticisms and concerns, right? High costs and lack of transparent outcomes, right? It's like, obviously you can't make, if I'm doing the work as a recruiting service, how could you make a guarantee of an outcome? That would be, I don't understand it. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I don't understand it. Reputation damage. Like, even as someone who works with a ton of athletes and I mentor and coach them and hold them accountable through the entire process. And we have a lot of connections. We work with the athlete for a while, get to know who they are, their character, their athletic ability, who they are. And then if it makes sense, yeah, we'll make a connection, but not at the detriment of reputation. And if you're bringing on a lot of kids and asking friends in the industry, coaches, to constantly be looking at people and then bring somebody on their team out of trust, and that person's not a good character guy, I mean, you're done, right? You're done. And all the coaches know each other, right? So another big thing is college coaches don't want to hear from handlers, right? So I know Brian, our head coach, will tell you this. Like, if he had guys on his board and 2 of them had handlers, and they had 10 others and 2 were just as good, they took the guys with handlers off the board, right? So they want to speak to the athletes. They want to know the athletes are driven. The parents aren't gonna be at practice busting their tail and trying to earn a spot. Neither are the handlers. They want the athletes, right? They want the athletes. A lot of done for you services aren't actually done for you. So I put here Kyle's strongest story. If you haven't read my book yet, there's a whole portion of this on Kyle and how he, from a mentorship standpoint, helped me. And so one of the things that, stories that he told me was that someone actually came into his family room and said, you pay me a couple $1,000 and I'll get you recruited. And then they never saw the guy again. So, I mean, there's real stuff like that out there, right? So you just want to be really careful. You have no idea what is actually being done. When someone else is doing a done for you service, especially when it comes to like marketing and sales and outreach, like what is actually being done? And you really don't know. And if it's too good to be true, then it probably is, right? You've heard that before, and it's true, right? So you're putting all of the most important components of your business in someone else's hands, right? So if you're a business owner, you know that in your business you have marketing, sales, and then your product, right? Your fulfillment. And so you're essentially putting the most important part of your business to continue to grow the business in someone else's hands, right? And then your son is focusing on grades, playing football, the fulfillment, right? Getting better as an athlete, improving, which is really important. You have to have that. But the marketing and sales, you've got to have that too. And if you're willing to just say, college coaches will say this, 80% of it is in the marketing and sales, not in the fulfillment, right? And it's the same thing with your athlete. In your situation, it's how well can you get in front of coaches, how well can you communicate with coaches, and then turn that communication into video views, into visits, and into offers, right? And so it's a decision that you've got to make. Do you want to put that all in someone else's hands, or do you want to take control of it? All right, now I did promise that I would give you a gift, and so I'd like to offer you a free copy of my book, In Spite of the Odds, where I share in depth, step by step, the system I use to earn a full Division I athletic scholarship in the SEC at just 5'7", 150 pounds. I share a lot of the mistakes I made and the things that I also wish I would have done differently. So I poured my heart and soul in this book, spent about 2 years writing it. So if you'd like a free copy, just click the link below, and all I ask is that you cover shipping. Now, what to look for in legitimate services, all right? Transparency and success rates and operational methods. So that's why, I know if you follow any of my stuff on YouTube, I give pretty much all of my content away for free. How we do things internally. I share live coaching calls because I want you to see what it's actually like. What are operational methods? What does the inside of our business look like? Because I don't have anything to hide, and I want you to see it because it's so good that I want you to. People that try to hide that stuff, it's weird to me. I don't do personally in my business, I don't do business with people that are hidden like that. It doesn't make sense to me. And then transparency and success rates. Like, I purposely put out what our success rate is. and then I back it up with actual names of athletes, Twitter profiles of actual athletes who have been through and have had success. And I do that because it's real, right? And I know a lot of people will give percentages and hide names, and it's like, then it's not, to me, it's not real. So if you see stuff out there, it's legitimate, there's real people, and you could see them and the success you're having, then it might be something that you really want to consider. And then actual parent and athlete testimonial videos, so not just text, but the actual athlete that you see that posted that they got an offer, a video of them explaining what the service was like, right? Like, that's what you were looking for. That's what you should look for, right? So anyways, what to look for. So debunking myths. The misconception that exposure is the sole missing link for aspiring athletes. Okay, so a lot of times parents will say, the only thing that I'm missing is exposure. And it's like, you're just getting started when you get exposure, right? Getting exposure is the first step. And then first off, you gotta have a really good video, exposure from the right coaches, and then being able to communicate, get that coach on a phone call. From that phone call, really build a relationship, turn that call into a visit, potentially skip a camp if that's what they're giving you, a camp invite and it's not necessary. Being able to communicate that, turn that into a visit, and that visit into an offer. There's a lot of steps here. Coaches are very good at selling athletes on why they can't make decisions and all the fluff and all the things that are going on. So getting exposure is just literally just the beginning. So let me make this a little bigger. Second thing is money grabs. For some reason in this industry, everything is a money grab. And I mention this because I'm in this industry. I was in it as an athlete, and I remember all parents would say this, all coaches would say this. It's like any service, even if it's the most amazing service in the world, but if it's sold to parents for athletes, it's a money grab, right? To me, it's ridiculous. It's a money grab would be if it's not legitimate, right? If it's we did a parent call actually just recently. We had all these parents on, and we talked about some of the camps that were getting invites, and it's like camp that was pretending to be for a junior day, like that's a money grab, right? Where it's like not real. But just because you provide a service, that's not a money grab, right? I mean, it's your choice, but that's, anyways. Preying on kids. So if you provide a service for athletes, and you sell it to parents, you're preying on kids. And the reason I made the program I made is because I made so many mistakes through my process of high school to a 1AA program, to leaving, to walking on at an SEC program, to earning a scholarship. Yeah, I did that, but I made a lot of mistakes, and I could have played way earlier. I could have earned a scholarship way faster. So I created what I created for people like me that wanted the sport, that didn't have it, and did it all the wrong way and the hard way, and I wasted a lot of money and I lost a lot of money. So that's why I created it, So, and I also know what it feels like as a young man to be not confident, to be frustrated, to be depressed, to not know what I should be doing, to not communicating with coaches properly. Like, I did all of those. And so, for people that want that support, awesome. And there's other people that look at what I do and say, oh, you're preying on kids. It's like, what? I'm helping kids, but I charge for my time. Like, I'm sorry. But do you charge your boss a set to work? Like, that's a money grab, right? No, you're not preying on your boss. You're charging for a service. And we get really, 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 really good results with really a lot of proven testimonials and a really high success rate. So, the argument that standout talents will be noticed without these services. If you want to believe that, it's something a lot of people say. If your athlete is good, coaches will find them. All right, but again, I'm a big math component, right? So every school has roughly 12 to 15 coaches that recruit. There's 1.1 million high school football players. That means each coach is responsible for recruiting about 75,000 high school football players. You know how many of those 75,000 are really good? A lot of them, okay? So it's just not true, right? And then investing in tutors, trainers, football coaches, cars, you name it, but not marketing and sales, right? And people do this in business, right? They'll invest in this amazing office space and this thing and this software and all this stuff. But the one thing they won't invest in or spend their time in is in marketing and sales, which is the most important part in the beginning, right? So, and it's the same thing that people will go on trips and they'll go to out of the country and they'll buy cars and all this stuff. And then it's like, oh, I don't spend money on recruiting. It's like, okay, well then, you can't be mad when you're sitting in your senior year with 2 offers and they're not really good. So anyways, let's talk about doing it yourself. You can absolutely do this. Everything we teach, you can 100% do it yourself, right? And we actually have a program, I'll put a link in the description below, where it's a do-it-yourself program where we give you all of the trainings, the scripts, and everything. And so there's some people that want to do that, and absolutely you could do this on your own, right? The questions you have to ask yourself are, what is your opportunity cost in your business, right? If you were to spend all your time with your son, learning the entire industry, learning how to market, how to sell to coaches, how to communicate with coaches, building relationships, if all that time spent, what is that worth to you? How much are you losing in your job, in your other relationships, right? Like, what's the opportunity cost? And do you have the time to become an expert in recruiting? Do you have the time to become an expert in marketing and sales in the recruiting space? Or if you were to invest in someone who knows what they're doing, who could potentially mentor, coach, and hold your son accountable, has all the systems, all the processes, everything set up, could you then focus on your work and your business and 10x whatever that small investment is, right? So you just got to think about it like that. And I know as a parent, sometimes it's hard to because you have so much going on. But if you're a parent and you have nothing going on and you have all the time in the world, then I would recommend, and you want to do it, then I would recommend doing it on your own, right? But if you're a business owner, an executive, you're very busy and you want to make sure it's in the right person's hands, and you know that the investment you would make in that you could 10x if you focused more on your business, then do that, right? The potential benefits of mentorship programs led by those with first-hand experience in the recruiting process, right? Utilization of high school coaches and athletic directors as invaluable resources. So a lot of people will lean on their coaches to do everything. You definitely don't want to do that. But you definitely want to lean on them to potentially make introductions. And again, their reputation is on the line too. But or once you do have a relationship, the coaches are there to validate you as a person, your character, all that. Okay, so your next play. Where are we going from here? 1, identify your primary constraint. What's your constraint right now in the recruiting process? Is it just that initial easy part, getting exposure? Is it, once you've gotten exposure, getting that coach to watch your video? Once you've got them to watch your video, is it getting them on a phone call? Once you've got them on a phone call, is it getting them to give you a visit? Once you get the visit, is it getting the offer? Where in the sales process is your constraint, right? Marketing, sales, closing. Where is the constraint so that you could focus on fixing that? If you're just saying, I'm struggling and I want a recruiting service, like, they're not going to solve all the problems, right? So where is the constraint in your process right now so that you could fix that? Conduct thorough research and seek advice from trusted sources before making a decision. So if you're saying, right now, like if we broke down these 4, right? There's softwares, there's mentorship, there's both, and then there's recruiting service. We do the combination, right? So we're a software and a mentorship program. And you're considering that, then do your research, right? Like, make sure you do your research and look at, again, things we talked about. Do they have proof? Is it actual parents? Is it actual athletes? Can you see what they're doing? All of that stuff. So make sure you do research on that. And do you have more time or do you have more money? If you have more time, then go the do-it-yourself method. Reach out to us. We'll give you access to all of the training, the scripts, all that stuff. You can do it yourself. If you have more money than time, then you might want to click the link below to apply and see if you're a good fit for our mentorship program. So call to action. If you have experiences with recruiting services, put them in the link in the comment section below. I really want to hear from you what your experiences are, what's worked, what's not worked, etc. So, and then again, if you're interested in potentially working with us to see if there's a good fit, make sure to click apply below. Now, I hope you got value from this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. And if you want to watch a more in-depth video that walks through exactly what you need to say to a coach to get their attention right up front and get the ball rolling, then you're going to want to watch this video right here.